Hey, Mark! Smoke! One of the ferry workers shouted to the bad boy beside her, gesturing to a cloud of black smoke, wafting up just as the ferry docked. She found herself looking to where he was pointing, a smaller house on the hill, past the line of cars waiting to get on. She heard him swear under his breath. Just then, there was a pop, 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 followed by screams and shrieks. "Get the ramp down!" Mark yelled. Pure instinct had her ducking and crouching behind her suitcase. She knew well the sound of a gunshot. Mark moved under the rope. Evidently, he was someone important, and she found herself really looking at him from where she was crouched. The metal gate was still closed, but the ramp was coming down. Mark hopped the metal fence in his cowboy boots and was on the ramp as soon as it was down far enough. "Keep everyone here until it's clear," he shouted, jogging up the ramp. There was a loud boom, followed by another dark cloud of smoke, and another pop, pop, pop. What the hell? This was supposed to be a safe, quiet island, not some crazy city. She listened to the shrieks, people ducking and taking cover, though the ferry worker wasn't. Something about his demeanor told her this wasn't anything unusual. "What do you think happened? Are we under attack?" Nora said, crouched right beside her, almost touching her. She realized the few passengers that had been standing behind her, waiting to walk off, were gone. Apparently, they'd taken cover, whereas she was right out in the open. "I have no idea," she said. Another ferry worker appeared, younger, tall, lanky. His pants were 2 sizes too big, with not a care in the world. She could no longer see Mark running. Just who the hell was he? The ramp was now down, and people were in their cars. One of the ferry workers was talking on his radio as he stood in front of the metal gate, holding the latch, the only thing keeping it closed, waiting for... what? Why the hell weren't they concerned? "Excuse me, what's going on?" Billy Joe called out from where she still crouched, really questioning what the hell she was walking into on this island. "Is that gunfire? Someone shooting?" Just C.J. Krantz," replied the ferry worker. "One of the old-time locals. Always something going on up there. Has a mess of guns he shoots off when the visitors here get too crazy for him. Too noisy, bothering him. He says there are just too many of them here. So he shoots off a few pops in hopes of scaring people away. He's harmless, though." Harmless? Was he kidding? She heard a crackle over the worker's vest radio, and she slowly stood up. The smoke was fading, and there had been no more pops. She spotted who she thought was Mark, putting out a fire with a hose, then heard a siren as a fire truck pulled up at the house. The ferry worker lifted his hand and circled it. "All clear. You can unload," he called out to the other worker. Billy Joe just stared in horror, because she knew well that guns and crazies weren't a good mix. "Whoa. Just wait a second. You said this was a local shooting off guns? And is that a fire?" She gestured to the small old house, still seeing smoke from under the water. A few other people were up there now. Nora was holding her arm, and Billy Joe glanced back at her, taking in the spooked look. The ferry worker just shrugged. "Mark took care of it. Likely a propane tank exploded on the barbecue at the back of the house. It's all under control." "Wait, but that was gunfire. And who is Mark?" she asked. The ferry worker pulled open the gate and gestured to her, and she knew to move. "Mark is a detective here on the island. He knows CJ and his shenanigans. He likely had the barbecue too close to the house. He's up there now, so the gun situation is handled. Don't worry. And welcome to Roche Harbor."